Hello everyone, good afternoon, it's me TK and Arif and we're Humble Associates. Welcome to Agile 101.
Welcome, everyone. Hello. Yes, it's great to be back with another episode. We've got a really exciting show to share with you today, and we're excited to have you with us.
We absolutely do, and let us know where we are. I'm in my Sky office, Arif is in his wonderful apartment and home office, so we're recording, but you never know, maybe for the next one things will change. Bear with us here. So today we're going to talk about something interesting, which is essentially how to avoid a horror show of team
Yes.
dysfunction. Why
Yes.
is that important, Arif?
Well, it's Halloween. That's coming up soon, isn't
Ah,
it?
yes.
That's number one reason. No, no, serious reasons. I think all of us, I think many of us, and all of you around the world, wherever you are, please tell us in the comments where you're from. We enjoy getting to meet all of you wonderful
Yes, indeed.
folks wherever you're dialing in from or joining us from. But yes, why is it important? Well, very simply, we all work in teams. We have done at some point in our careers, and probably will do, at some point going forward, if you're not in one today. And so I'm sure working in teams, whether in the past or looking ahead into the future, you will find various kind of challenges, or you have found
Hmm.
various challenges as to why some teams may have worked better than others, and reasons for why some teams have been more performing than other teams. And I think we wanted to share some things about that.
We will. So essentially, what we'll talk about today is how, as a team, you can get a bit into a tricky situation when you're dysfunctional. So, but before we do, we always have a bit of a quiz for you. So, where is my quiz? Here it is. We'd like to know you a bit more. So the first thing is, who are you? We already know your names, but are you a leader, an agile practitioner, so a scrum master or an agile coach, or maybe neither? So give us an A, B, or C so we can get to know you, and we'll go quite soon. So, Arif, do you consider yourself a leader or an agile practitioner?
I guess I'm both, aren't I?
Ah, yes.
Co-founder of Humble Associates, and we do like to practice some agility and help others with that. So, guess I'm in number A and B. What about you, TK?
Well, that's quite true. I consider myself more of a leader now since we're having our team, and it's a bit of a bit of more management and running a business than actually being heads down with the client. But we're still doing that, which is great. So let's go and talk about why are teams so important for agility? I think the team is a basic unit of work in agility, and we don't talk about individuals as much as we talk about teams. So why is that, Aaron?
Yeah, I think. I think when it comes to the origins of agile ways of
Mm-hmm.
working, right, and going back to where it started from with this idea of improving the world of software development, etc., there was a huge focus on the practices and the techniques, and there always has been. And you look at the popularity of many agile frameworks and methods out there, that's where the emphasis is on, is how do we do it right, how do we work in the right way, which is great, which is important, it's crucial. Some have some messages and some, I suppose, focus on
Mm.
the idea of a team being a unit in order to be effective in delivering some of that output and value. But I think inherently there's a lot that is kind of left to your own judgment. There's a lot that is not spoken, it's kind of implicit, it's implied. I mean, just looking at the values of I was looking at them earlier today before, while we were preparing for this, and you got the principles around self-organization, you've got
You
the
do.
idea of a team making their own decisions, but beyond that there's not much else there. And so we've got to fill the gap somehow, and then we do find, and as I said at the start, we do find when we work with organizations and teams that there are some teams that somehow magically work and others just are not performing. And why is that? There's a is there a magic source that we're looking for, that we need to
There is a
fix
magic
that?
sauce, I think so, Arif. And the most important thing is because the problem when it comes to teams, or why are teams so important in agility? Because people are supposed to be cross-functional, so they're supposed to work on a team that delivers value rather than just represent a function. But they're also supposed to be self-managing, and it can lead into a bit of a horror story. So the horror of a dysfunctional self-organizing team. Now, what happens with self-organizing teams is not, well, in the olden days, you had the boss, right? So if the team becomes dysfunctional, a boss would actually come in and try to set them straight. However, it was effective or not. But with self-organizing team, there might not be a mechanism for the team to get out of a dysfunction, and thus they might end up in a situation when they really deteriorate. And evolution would say that a dysfunctional team will fade away. Dare I say, die. So I think dysfunction is even more pertinent and even more dangerous in self-organizing team than it is in teams that are being managed from the outside. What's your view, Arif?
No, I wonder. I was going to throw it back to our audience, and I wonder if they could tell us some thoughts about what dysfunction means to them. And please put it in the comments. We'd love to read your thoughts as we share ours. So if you've got any observations, thoughts, anecdotes, experiences of a horror show of dysfunctional teams, please share them in the comments. It really helps us to connect with you better and understand the kind of challenges you're going through. So please do that, and we'll maybe look at some of those or refer to them or try and answer them as we go through our material.
Weave them into our show, yes, as always.
Weave them in.
But Arif, I think most of the teams I worked with had some form of dysfunction. If any of you wonderful viewers have listened to my Coach on the Rocks show today, every team has a bit of dysfunction, and it's a constant battle between the universe imparting entropy, so basically getting everything slightly more chaotic and falling into dysfunction, and actually us countermanding that, right? So have you ever worked in a team that wasn't dysfunctional at all, Arif? Was that a case in your career in life?
I think I would be hard-pressed to find anyone who would say they have not worked in a team where there was some element of... I mean, it's messy at the best of times working with others, isn't it? I mean, we're all complex. We're all very different as human beings. We have different needs, etc. So I would be amazed if there's anyone here in our audience who've never experienced that before. I'm sure you've got some stories. I've got some stories. I'm guessing we'll share some of them today.
We will. But if you've worked in a team that wasn't dysfunctional at all, good for you. Let us know in the comments, as they say.
Exactly. So I'll be excited to hear that.
As with everything, there is a model. So we are using the Patrick Lencioni's model of dysfunctions, so his 5 team dysfunctions. And today we wanted to talk about them so we can identify them in a bit more detail. So Arif, when have you learned about Lencioni's model?
Well, I wanted to ask you, Tiggy, why have you picked it? What was your
I think this is the most common one. The one I personally like, the one that I think holds true. There are more models. It's actually a very good question, Arif. But sometimes we like some models and not the others, even though they all are probably equally wrong, if I may say so myself. But let's go. It's only 5. I like the number of 5, and I like the building at the end.
I mean, it is popular, and yes, you're right, and it is only a model. I get it. We use this phrase a lot. All models are useful. Some are wrong, or whatever the gist of that is. But I think that there is some grain of truth in, at least in terms of how he's tried to capture the essence of, I think, what he's talking about, which is beautiful. We'll get to is the root cause for all this dysfunction, and I think that's the critical thing. Why does this dysfunction really occur? Why does it appear? You'll see lots of symptoms, but we need to understand why it's occurring in the first place. And that's what I love about what he's captured and why and how he's put it together. Let's go through it. I think
let's go through it. Right, there's 5, and the first one is the inattention to results. So the inattention to results is when a team stops worrying about their goals, outcomes, values, and such.
Yeah, I mean, it's a simple case of lacking focus, isn't it? I think when there is and this, you could argue, okay, weak leadership, right? Or you could argue we don't have a clarity of vision, or we don't have clarity of direction from those above us, which causes some of this behavior of, well, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'll just turn up and do
Yeah.
what I think is the right thing and go home again, right? I'm just going to focus on myself. I'm not going to worry about anyone else because no one else cares about anyone else. So I'll just come in, do my job, clock in, clock out, and I'll be back the next day. And I have worked with teams where we've seen that behavior. You get individuals who are just along for the ride, shall we say? Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
unfortunately.
and
Silent
I
quitting
think
and such.
silent
You,
quitting, exactly. We can all probably relate to that in some ways. I wonder, TK, why? I mean, we've seen
Mhm.
that, you've seen that. How much of that is down to the individuals? How much of that is down to culture or other factors or leadership? What are your thoughts on that?
I think a lot of it is not down to individuals. It's actually the system itself. So
Ah,
I
right.
didn't have the greatest grades at school until I was actually finishing school and I had to go and get my exams. And then I thought, oh, I have to do something because I won't get into the university and so on. So I made a huge jump just because prior to that, I didn't believe there's any point in achieving results. So the system, some people liked having good grades, but I didn't see the point in them. So why should I bother? I might as well play games, right? It's fun. So
So
yeah.
no. I was just thinking. I'm going back to why.
Mhm.
Why does Patrick? Why is he focused on inattention to results? Right. Why?
Well,
Why is he picked this
I
as
think
a dysfunction?
I think he treats it as a dysfunction for a simple reason that if a team doesn't focus on results or ignores results altogether, what can happen
Yeah.
is, unfortunately, the consequences can be very harsh because the environment the team is working in can, dismiss the team or it can, unfortunately, cease to exist. And by the
Yeah.
way, the team is there to get results of some shape or another, right? Isn't it?
Yeah. No, yeah. You're right. There's also something. I think the way he's put this model together is there is a link between each of the kind of various
Mhm.
layers in his model. I know we're not going to reveal it till the end, and we'll go through it step by step. But there is a link between this and the next layer of his model as well. So,
Ah.
um,
The link,
are we
right?
are we going
So that's
are we going to
foreshadowing,
the next
Arif, about the next layer, which is
foreshadowing?
the avoidance of
E-
accountability.
Exactly. So
So
I
what's
think
this one about?
the way I read it and the way I see it is that, well, if you observe this a behavior
Hmm.
of inattention to results, where they're putting their own needs before the teams, they're only interested in themselves because that for whatever reason, the environment leadership, as we said, is not very clear on what the purpose of that team is, and everyone just it just
Yeah,
stagnates, isn't it? Just chugs along with no value to anyone.
similar to
Um,
what you said
then
previously.
we then what will happen is you'll see an avoidance of accountability.
Hmm.
So people will then subsequently not feel accountable for any of the work. So, well, what's the point? I don't care really. I'll just do the bare minimum, right? Even if you set me some tasks as my manager or leader or whatever, I'll just do just enough. But I'm not really going to take ownership, and definitely I'm not going to take ownership as a team.
Yeah,
I'm going to maybe do something at a bare minimum for myself, but I'm not really worried about the whole team and how we're going to get on as a whole team.
that's a very good point, Arif.
That's the
Yeah.
consequential behavior in my view.
I personally think there is also another dimension in it. So, in the avoidance of accountability, if the bad results come in and you find yourself as a team that you're not performing in any shape or form that is your goal, you can avoid accountability by saying, well, it's not our fault. It's someone else's
The best,
fault. Or is in terms of being a team
yes,
member, you can have a situation where you would say, oh, it's not my job, it's this guy's.
exactly. I want to give an example
All
where
right,
I've
go
seen
ahead.
this more than once. Is
Haven't
working
we
in
all?
teams. Yeah. I've seen this in a number of teams. Working in a team where the team members will, the quality of the work is not great.
Hmm.
Let's say, And when you start working with a team, as I have done in the past, and you start looking and trying to diagnose what's going on, one of the things that comes up, or one of the reactions that come up, is team members goes, "Well, it's really frustrating working here. The product manager, they just don't know how to write requirements,
Yeah.
right? And because of the way they do
It's
their
not my
requirements, and because
fault.
of that,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. We don't know what we're doing, and the stuff we put out is really poor, right? And so it makes you think, oh, so where were you when all these poor requirements were being written, right? What did you do to step up and help your product manager to support you, or to feel that the result of your team is a collective responsibility and it's not just your own, right?
Yeah, and
So
you know
you're
what I have
basically,
done? I had
yes,
fallen into the next dysfunction, which is the lack of
ah,
commitment, right? I don't
right,
freaking
there we go.
care. You know,
Yes.
I'm not paying attention to results. I'm avoiding accountability, and at the end, how can I be committed? How can a team be committed
Well,
if you haven't
the the
got these
the,
two things?
the
Yeah,
biggest thing with this one,
yeah,
with the commitment, and it's the subtle difference that you're avoiding the accountability for me, is that no one wants to make a decision.
hmm,
So now you're in this paralysis state where it's like, well, okay, well, I don't want to be okay, so if I say yes to this, or if I make the decision, it's going to be on me.
yeah.
Therefore,
There's a
I'm not
commitment,
going to
right?
speak. Keep quiet, and someone else can decide, right? I'm not going to commit to anything, right? So it breeds a lack of confidence, and then this fear of failing occurs,
Oh man,
right?
yeah,
So
and
no one
that's the
steps there,
thing.
put their head above the parapet, as the saying goes, right? So this is the issue.
And you know what? As the deeper we go into a more dangerous territory. If the
Yes.
team lacks commitment, if you get into this, you're starting to get into a point of that's very hard to return from. By which I mean, well, if you're not committed as a team, it might be
Do
hard to get you out of this state into something better because change also requires commitment. So let's be really wary about getting here, shouldn't we, right? When it
do
comes
you
to
have
that.
any examples of this lack of
Lack
commitment
of
that
commitment.
you could?
I think this is one of the ones that's easiest to see. Um,
Okay.
I don't know if there's a pertinent example that I can show and talk about because it happens a lot, right? But imagine a situation I remember when I can't blame the team for that, but when they're being faced with. So I remember it's not a team I was working with, thankfully, but I remember working in a company that had been doing or participating in public tenders, and the senior leadership really wanted to get in on that because there were significant budgets. So they won a project with no ability to deliver in time and in time and in the requirements that was given. So
Wow.
everyone in the team knew that it was just impossible, and yet people were expecting them to deliver. So
Ah.
the problem was there was no point being committed because failure was the only option. And
Right.
in this
Yes.
case, what happened is really dramatic. The very poor quality that was delivered, and people were blamed for, like, for instance, the actual piece that the team needed to deliver actually was a piece of software. Um,
Yeah.
didn't have any performance requirements. So the
Ah.
team
Right.
neglected performance altogether. The system worked in such a way that you wouldn't believe. It took ages to do anything. It's really crappy.
Hmm.
So, from a point of view of just common sense, people ask, but why did they do that? Why on earth would anyone design and produce a system that does that? And they just said,
Yeah.
well, had no time to optimize it because obviously there was no commitment.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. No, that's a yeah, very, a bit of a sad example
Well,
there. I
because
mean,
it gets sad when you get to that, doesn't it?
yeah, it does, and I think we're going to come to the next
We definitely
dysfunctional.
will, which is the fear
Yes.
of conflict, because
Right.
in this
Yes.
case, it really gets awful because blame is being passed and it starts getting, dare I even say, violent. People
Well,
are saying, well,
I
go ahead,
hope
Harry.
I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't get violent. But I think
I
this
don't mean
is the
physical,
next
but even like,
consequential. Yes, yeah, I know what you mean with kind of recriminations and blame,
Yeah.
as you said. Yeah, that, the violent language, maybe, I don't know, but this is the next consequential behavior, right? So if the
Hmm.
lack of commitment starts to appear, then what happens beyond that is this fear of. I see it as positive conflict. So the way I interpret this kind of layer
Hmm.
of his model is what he's saying is that teams and team members are incapable of having robust conversations, right? They're
Yes.
not able to then passionately debate whether they should do something or should
Yeah.
not do
That's the
something
point, right?
in
Yeah.
a way that is constructive and healthy. So, I disagree because I feel X. No, I think we should do Y because of these reasons, and let's discuss and agree and come to a compromise. Instead, everyone just sits around and no one raises a reason not to do something. Everyone just nods along because it's the safe thing to
Yeah.
do. Yeah,
That's
because if I
awful,
say
right?
something, if I say something, I'm going to get
You're
told,
on the
or
hook.
I'm going to be looked at. Yes, I'll be on the hook. I'll be told off, or socially not, culturally not acceptable in my organization, right? Whatever it is. And so I can't raise anything controversial. I have a good example of
Hmm.
that. Is I,
Go
I
ahead.
worked in a business organization where we had a product that they were building was really poorly received by customers.
Hmm.
They would constantly ring up and raise support queries because they just couldn't get their needs were not being fulfilled, and the product
Yep.
experience was really poor. And so we had one of the senior team members who kept raising this point about, oh, the way we're building this product is not right.
Hmm.
It's like we're measuring for the wrong things. We're not providing the right value. But he just wasn't able to articulate them with the right people. And I think looking back, part of that was this. He had this fear of conflict. He just wasn't able to risk anything in being able to share this challenging feedback with the right people. So the team just chugged along, and what happened
Just
is a
did,
lot
right?
of team members left. They got fed up. They said, "Well, we're not going to be here. I'm not going to waste my time here. No one listens. I'll just go somewhere else."
Yeah. And you know what?
It was
It
a
gets
shame.
to that, right? With this model, the more you get in terms of these dysfunctions, someone will speak up. And with that, it's just difficult to have a conversation. Now you're really getting into something that it's really hard to get back from. But there's a final one, Arif, which is
Yes,
the lack of trust, the
there we
absence of
go.
trust. And this
The
is like
absence of
the
trust.
final ground level dysfunction that
That's it.
underpins a lot of it. Because if
Yes.
you do not have trust, if the team doesn't trust each other in whatever way, you feel that someone will tell on you, you feel that no one will perform, you don't trust anyone, there is so much apathy and there is very little possibility of change. If you
Yeah.
have a fundamental lack of trust, it's really hard to get out, and the team is quite dysfunctional. And I guess we've all seen teams like that, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean,
Sadly.
you might have seen or been part of a team where people just don't want to go to meetings, or
Yeah.
they don't want to they don't want to ask for feedback or provide feedback to anyone. They maybe hide things from each other, right? That's the worst thing. It's like, oh, why is this not? What's happened here? Let's learn some lessons, or let's diagnose why. And no one wants to speak up. No one wants to share why. Less learning lessons is just doesn't happen. Everyone just papers over the cracks and carries on.
Yeah.
You start assuming bad intent. That's another thing. Is, oh, he's behaving like this because he hates me,
That's
or
the
that kind of.
lack of
And you
trust in
have all these.
action, isn't it?
Exactly, and then this whole thing of office politics. I think a lot of it is from this. It's absence that no one trusts it. Oh, I work. You go to work, but you have bad intent for everyone, or you assume bad intent. Sorry, on behalf of everyone that's there. Then you surely aren't trusting your fellow colleagues and team members. So why is that? What's going on here? How do you expect to create a positive work atmosphere or team atmosphere if you're constantly assuming bad intent? So this is a real core foundational dysfunction, which everything above what we've talked about really links back to.
And that's quite true. And this is the core. By the way, we're having a bit of a core dysfunction of possibly technical problems with the stream. So hopefully you're able to see us more or less, but we'll publish the recording if it suddenly stops. But the important thing here, and you can see it in the next slide, is that the lack of trust is the fundamental dysfunction. Is the dysfunction that
Yeah.
underpins all other dysfunction. It's in the bottom of the pyramid. So what is this pyramid about, Arif?
Well, this is what we've been talking through. This is Lencioni's actual model.
Yes, in the form
5
of a pyramid.
dysfunctions of a team. Yeah, there's the book is out there. You're welcome to find it.
A
So the
good
credit
book.
goes
It's a
to him. This is
storytelling, so you can
yeah.
tell us a story of a fictitious team. But actually,
The,
a good read, yes.
the way and as the way we've tried to talk you through it and then explain these layers, to me it's one is on top of the other, and you can see
Yes.
that because it's a pyramid, the basis of all of the other dysfunctions is trust ultimately. So if you're working in an environment where you observe any of these type of behaviors at whichever layer, then if you look and dig a bit deeper, Patrick's suggestion is you'll find the others. So if you're observing ambiguous direction and priorities, right, and discussions are being constantly revisited because no one wants to make a decision, he might argue, okay, well, there's a lack of commitment going on. There possibly could be an avoidance of accountability and perhaps also an inattention to results already happening that you may not have noticed. So look a bit deeper, you may find them. That's how I would read this model, and that's how I think Patrick is telling his story of the kind of dysfunctions that you might find in
It's
a
a
team.
good point, Arif. And the way I'm looking at it is it usually starts from, it starts rotting from the foundation. So you have the lack of trust first, which breeds the others. So even though we started from the final one, which is the attention to results, what you will have is your team dysfunction will start with the lack of trust, slowly at first, and go into the higher ones, the higher levels of the pyramid, until, unfortunately, you probably won't have a great team to work with. It's not a great experience to work with a team that's dysfunctional. We've all been there, haven't we? And Arif told us some stories. I've shared some stories myself. So yeah, you've got two options: either to try to fix something or leave, or stay where you are. There's always various options. But today we won't. Oh, we've only got 2 minutes left, so we won't be covering how to get out of it. It might be in one of our next episodes. So stay
Yes,
with us and register for the thing. And check out our Humble Associates profile. So again, just to summarize, we've got the 5 dysfunctions of a team model, and our invitation to you is following. Look into the mirror of your own team, have a look at what your team does, and try to analyze: is your team dysfunctional, and where does this dysfunction lie? There may be some. As we established, there is always some. But have a look. The tool is really useful, and we totally encourage you to buy and read the book. It's incredible, and you will definitely find a lot about your teamwork there.
definitely. Yeah, I think if you look online, you'll even find
Plenty of, yeah.
surveys based on Patrick's model where you could self-assess your own teams and how things are progressing for your team. So it's something to look out for.
And
Okay,
finally, Arif,
what's
I
next,
think,
TK?
is it next week, the 2nd? I can't
The
remember.
second is next Thursday. Yes.
It
So
is
next
next
Thursday
Thursday. Yes,
we're,
next
we're back.
Thursday we have another live show, the Azure Q&A.
Yes. Yes. So
So
do join
why
us
should
if
people
you have.
join it, Arif? What's
Well,
so great
if you've
about
got
it?
exactly, if you've got burning questions around agility, challenges you're facing around agile ways of working, send them to us. You know where to find us. We're here on LinkedIn. Email us,
Always
whatever.
here.
Yeah. So send them in, and we'll do our best to answer them next Thursday live 5 p.m. here on LinkedIn.
Yes, and even if you don't have the burning questions, come, because you might enjoy other people's questions, the discussions that happen in the chat. Again, it's 5 p.m. GMT because we're changing, obviously, the daylight savings time. And you can scan the QR code or go to humble.associates/questions. With that, we're at time. It's been wonderful having you. Thank you for all your chats, comments, and likes and other emojis. And we'll see you hopefully next week and on the
Thank you
next
very
meeting.
much.
So don't be a stranger. Look at our socials, follow us around, and we'll make sure to invite you. Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone. Goodbye. Have a good afternoon and rest of the day.